Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas. Tonight, we have live updates from several of our correspondents across North America, starting with Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Closure of the Canada-U.S. border is extended for another month.
I'm Ellen Ramos in Washington, D.C.
President Trump's younger brother, Robert Trump, died, and Professor Alan Lichtman predicts the winner of the 2020 presidential election.
Naya Dames in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Maryland Board of Elections approves early dates for November 2020 general election.
Next, we have Mila Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
COVID-19 Response Task Force for Health Disparity announced the recommendations to help end disparities in marginalized communities here in Pennsylvania.
Mayanne Manzano-Guerzon in Sicklerville, New Jersey.
Every registered voter in New Jersey to receive VBM ballot in the mail to protect public health.
We have Diane Passion in Edinburgh, Texas, reports about Hidalgo County COVID condolence program assisting families with coronavirus-related funeral expenses. Next, we have Anway Rayutatar in Panorama City, California.
Mayor Eric Garcetti unveils new reserved bus lanes and protected bike lanes in downtown Los Angeles.
Trish Nicole Perez in Van Nuys, California.
Heat wave continues in Los Angeles County.
Plus, a conversation about our first plane ride. But first, an overview of how the world looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 3 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, August 16, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 21,800,000. This includes more than 5,300,000 in the U.S. and more than 123,000 in Canada. Sadly, this virus has taken over 772,000 lives worldwide. This number includes more than 169,000 in the U.S. and more than 9,000 in Canada. Our coverage begins now. U.S. Democrats kick off an unprecedented political experiment beginning Monday, an all-virtual national convention that nominates Joe Biden as their White House candidate to battle President Donald Trump in the heat of a deadly pandemic. With his vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris, the first woman of color on the major U.S. presidential ticket, Biden is campaigning to unify a nation ravaged by political and racial turmoil, voter suppression concerns, and profound anxiety over the devastating coronavirus crisis. But the running mates will deliver their message aiming to inspire the Democratic base while luring Republicans under unique circumstances. A 4-day Democratic National Convention conducted entirely online. No huzzas, background dealings, or balloon drops on ecstatic crowds and candidates, hallmark elements of U.S. political conventions. Instead, organizers are retooling to conduct business online, like drafting the party platform and coordinating scores of presentations and speeches from midday Monday. Wednesday evening will spotlight Harris, a 55-year-old U.S. senator and former prosecutor who is the daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants. Biden has promoted her story as the American dream. Charles Franklin, professor of law and public policy and director of the Marquette Law School poll of Marquette University, says the impact usually seen in previous conventional elections remains to be seen under these new circumstances. Charles Franklin, professor of law and public policy and director of the Marquette Law School poll, Marquette University.
After the conventions is when we've historically seen support for the candidates move around a good bit. People have seen the conventions, they've seen the nominees, have begun to focus on politics. So I think that's the thing to watch for, but admit we really don't know whether this sort of non-convention or virtual convention plus a speech will have anything like the kind of short-term impacts that we've seen in previous elections.
Franklin adds Biden is not disliked by Republicans as much as Hillary was in 2016.
This time, we've seen 3.5 years of the Trump administration. People have formed very strong opinions either for him or against him. So I don't think there's nearly the amount of uncertainty that there was in 2016. So far, at least, Joe Biden is not seen as negatively by Republicans as Hillary Clinton was, though he's certainly not seen positively among Republicans, but he doesn't have that deep antipathy that there was towards Clinton.
In other news, protesters marched in the streets of Chicago to condemn police brutality on Saturday. In the wake of recent rioting, some expressed concern that the message of the Black Lives Matter movement is being overshadowed by violence. Take a look.
Just losing faith, maybe, and just more focusing into the rioting now because they feel they ain't getting through. You know, they turned around and killed 2 more people after the Minnesota incident. So maybe the crowd is slowing down because they feel they ain't getting their point across. Wasn't nobody being violent, wasn't nobody hostile, being in riot gear. I feel that they were just being intimidating and, you know, we just had to ignore it and keep on marching and keep representing.
They expected more people to show up, but not that many people showed up. And instead of decreasing the numbers of the police force, they decided to keep the police force the same.
It's very difficult to see, you know, and I respect all of the right to march, the right to protest, but when it becomes violent and when it becomes disruptive and start to destroy stuff, then you lose the real focus.
Now we're calling the attention all members of Filipino communities, Filipino migrants and their children, and interested foreign nationals under the jurisdiction of Centro Rizal, Washington, D.C. Centro Rizal, Washington, D.C. is inviting you to join Centro Rizal Quarantinig, Patimpalak sa Pag-awit, a project in celebration of Buwan ng Wika or Philippine Language Month, spearheaded by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or the NCCA, through Centro Rizal, Filipinas. Quarantinig is a free online singing competition that highlights the Filipino language through original Filipino music, or OPM. Participants must sing and record or video a performance of any original Filipino music sung in the Filipino language. For the complete mechanics, registration form, and video release consent, please check the link bit.ly/3HVCNVK. The deadline for submission of video entries is on Thursday, 20th of August 2020 at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Send your entries to the Centro Rizal, Washington, D.C. via email to cultural@phembassy-us.org. Again, that's cultural@phembassy-us.org. Coming up, updates from Edmonton, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Pennsylvania. We'll return shortly. This is Eagle News, America.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit, lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. Kung ikaw ay 21 to 59 years old at may angking galing sa pagsayaw, mapasolo, duo o grupo man, magpadala na ng audition entry. Narito ang mga guidelines. Para makapagpasa ng entry sa dancing category, contact Shing at 0995-880-8004. Ito na ang pagkakataon mo para maging tagisan ng galing grand winner at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, i-like ang Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. Kaya sali na!
Accurate and fair reporting. Not only from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, but also abroad. Detailed and timely stories relevant to people all over the world. Catch all of these at Net25, your reliable source of news, entertainment, and technology updates.
Hi! Ito po ulit si Melda Papin. Abangan ang part 2 ng Tagisan ng Galing dito po sa Net25.
Mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga OFWs sa Middle East at North Africa, may good news kami para sa inyo. Mapapanood na ninyo ang Net25 at iba pang Filipino channels na hatid ng OSN sa presyong abot kaya. Libre ng box at installation, walang admin fees at no extra charges. Saktong entertainment na sakto lang sa budget mo. Bumisita na sa 25 at OSN. Siguradong at home ka dito.
Hi, I'm Vina Morales. Abangan ang part 2 ng Tagisan ng Galing dito lang sa Net25.
Tayong mga Filipino, likas na palabati. Sanay rin tayong makipagkamay. Pero dahil na rin sa COVID pandemic, isinusulong ang pagbati na hindi na kailangan pang makipagkamay. Ang pambansang pagbati. Ito ay ang pagdampi ng kanang palad sa gitnang bahagi ng dibdib, kasabay ng bahagyang pagyukod ng ulo o paibabang tingin at pagsambit ng mga salitang nagpapahayag ng pagbati, paggalang o pagpupugay. Pagkatapos nito ay ang pag-angat ng ulo ng nakangiti at nakatingin sa mata ng pinabati. Pambansang pagbati, pagpapakita ng paggalang, kababaang loob at pagiging sensero nating mga Filipino.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Closure of the Canada and U.S. border has been extended for another month. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness reports.
Good evening, Anna. Before I get to that story, I just want to take a quick look at our weather, and I know you're in the midst of a heat wave. We've got a heat wave here. I just checked AccuWeather, and you don't have a heat warning. You have an extreme heat warning. It's 112 degrees there. You could fry eggs on the sidewalk. Well, like I said, we have a heat wave here. They're saying high temperatures. Currently, we've got lots of sunshine, 29 degrees Celsius. That's 84 Fahrenheit, quite a ways from that 112. The temperature is supposed to moderate a little bit later in the week. We should be in the mid-20s, which is the high 70s on the Fahrenheit scale. But if I had 112 degrees here, I think I'd be making my breakfast out on the patio there, saving on the power bill. Well, if you're thinking of coming up to Canada for a visit and cooling off, you're going to have to wait a while. As you know, the Canada-U.S. border has been closed to non-essential travel since March 21st, and every month that closure has been extended. And this past week, again, an extension. This time, they'll revisit the idea September 21st. The closure, of course, to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and it's unlikely we'll be putting out the welcome mat before the end of the year, probably sometime next year, because, you know, as long as the number of infections in the U.S. remains high, there's no appetite here to greet visitors. There are a few exceptions, though. Family reunifications in some circumstances. People who own property in Canada can come up and take care of that. And of course, those traveling by land to Alaska, but there are quite a few tight restrictions on that, including a time limit for them to get to their destination, and absolutely no sightseeing allowed. A couple of other things I want to mention while I'm here. Our Chief Public Health Officer says Canadians will be living with COVID-19 until 2022. Dr. Teresa Tam took a look into her crystal ball. She says the worst case scenario will see a large peak of cases this fall, with more peaks and valleys continuing for 18 months. And that brings up the question, can we handle this new round of infections? Tam warns that the peak this fall could reach higher numbers than ever before and perhaps even overwhelm the healthcare system. And let's hope Murphy's Law doesn't kick. You know Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will. Because, you know, as well as COVID-19, Dr. Tam warns that the fall flu season is waiting in the wings. So, you know, public health officials are going to be very, very busy. Just who's being infected these days? Well, it's young people. The latest data in Canada shows a high number of cases in the 20 to 39-year-old demographic. Her takeaway message: continue to practice the recommended public health measures. You know them. Hand washing, social distancing, face masks. This is not over. Oh, you recall I told you last week about a harebrained plan in the city of Edmonton? After introducing a mandatory face bylaw, bureaucrats printed up exemption cards for people unable to wear a mask for health reasons. We were the only jurisdiction in Canada to do so. Everybody else who put in a mask bylaw, that was it. Well, anyway, they handed out these cards, no questions asked, to anybody who asked for one, including, I'm sure, quite a few people who launched protests at the legislature about face masks. They couldn't ask about health because the city has no authority to do so, but they figured, well, we can just take people at their word. Now, who's going to game the system? Who's going to cheat? Well, in just a couple of days, 6,000 of these things were in the hands of people who may or may not be eligible for them. Big public backlash from business, from ordinary citizens. The city has stopped handing out the cards, although they say the existing ones will be honored. I don't think anybody's going to turn them back in. In the meantime, I wish you all good health. Take care of others and take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you for the updates in your part of the world, Thomas. You mentioned that frying an egg on the sidewalk. I have yet to try that. I've lived here in Vegas 20 years, and yes, you are correct. 112, high of 112 or 44 degrees Celsius here in Las Vegas today.
Oh, that's just brutal temperatures.
Yes. So even if there was no pandemic, these are the days when you just stay home. You either go out very early in the morning or when the sun goes down. But even then, it's still very hot outside.
Yeah, when I was down there for NAB one time, they moved it to the fall. Actually, it was RTNDA. It was moved to the fall, and you know, you went outside and you just looked for the next air-conditioned venue.
Yes, absolutely. That's the just be quick to be outside. That's the key here. But you have lots going on there, Thomas, with the extension of the closure of the border. How do most Canadians feel about that? And how
Most Canadians are quite content to see it closed until further notice, indefinitely. And the fear is, you know, we're bordering on Michigan, where there's a lot of cases there. We're bordering on Washington State, where there's been flare-ups again. And the fear is we've got enough problems of our own.
Yes.
We don't want to import. You know, the coronavirus is a great hitchhiker.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't stay in one place. And I'm surprised to hear about that, you know, the card where people, it's like a pass not to wear a mask. I'm really
Well, you got to wonder, don't these people think, you know, we're going to give these out on an honor system, and a week previous there were hundreds of people protesting against masks? We'll hand these out, no questions asked.
lots of trust in the government there. And you would think that with the flu season, like you mentioned, flu season around the corner, you know, that would just be helpful also, not just for the coronavirus, but just for the flu.
Well, yeah, and that's going to hit both countries about the same time.
Yes.
So again, it's those basic public health measures.
Yes, and getting the flu shot for
Yep.
those who want one.
And no potlucks. I still miss potlucks, but they're still saying no more, you know, no buffets, no potlucks here.
Hopefully soon.
One
All right,
day.
Thomas. Well, thank you so much for your updates.
Take care and stay cool.
You too. U.S. President Donald Trump's younger brother, Robert Trump, dies, and Professor Alan Lichtman predicts the winner of the 2020 presidential election. In Washington, D.C., Eagle News correspondent Imelin Ramos reports.
Thank you, Anna. It's a cool evening of 68 degrees here in Washington, D.C., 20 degrees Celsius in equivalent. Surprisingly cooler than in Edmonton, where Thomas is, and it's a nice break from the heat wave. Want to visit here first, Anna, before Canada?
Definitely.
Anyway, yesterday, President Donald J. Trump's younger brother, Robert Trump, passed away after being hospitalized for an undisclosed illness. President Trump issued a heartfelt statement that showed just how close he was to his younger brother. This is what he said, quote, "It is with a heavy heart I share that my wonderful brother, Robert, peacefully passed away tonight. He was not just my brother, he was my best friend. He will be greatly missed, but we will meet again. His memory will live on in my heart forever. Robert, I love you. Rest in peace." I'm sure all of us feel for the president and give him our condolences. It's a difficult time, but it's also nice to see some of the president's opponents offer their condolences. Presumptive Democratic nominee for President Joe Biden tweeted today his condolences to President Trump. He stated on his Twitter, quote, "Mr. President, Jill and I are sad to learn of your younger brother Robert's passing. I know the tremendous pain of losing a loved one, and I know how important family is in moments like these." His presumptive running mate, Kamala Harris, also expressed her condolences to the Trump family. In a highly charged political environment, it's nice to see that despite all that is happening, we can maintain our decency to one another and to remember our humanity. On a different note, back to U.S. politics. The election website Real Clear Politics has former Vice President Biden with a 7.7-point lead over President Trump nationally. Alan Lichtman has given his 2020 presidential election prediction. Do you know who Alan Lichtman is? He's a history professor at American University, and he has correctly predicted the results of every U.S. presidential election since 1984. He also predicted President Trump's upset win in 2016. What is the professor's 2020 forecast? He says that Joe Biden will win the November 3rd vote. He says that the election has nothing to do with Joe Biden and that it's not dependent on Donald Trump's personality. Instead, It's based on their record. He bases his predictions on what he calls the 13 keys to the White House. Such keys include issues such as the economy, social unrest, charisma, and other keys that the professor uses. Is his system completely foolproof? No. Lichtman's keys are predominantly a predictor of the popular vote and not the Electoral College. So he has been correct in predicting the popular vote since 1984, with the exception of 2016, where he predicted that President Donald Trump would win the popular vote and win the Electoral College. But as we know, the president won the Electoral College but lost the popular vote. In any event with COVID-19 in our lives, there are no sure predictions for the November 3rd election. In Washington, D.C., I'm Melin Bonda Pramos, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Imelin, for that report. Yes, it is certainly always sad news when a loved one passes away. So on behalf of Eagle News America, our deepest condolences to the president and his family. Now, I read somewhere that, Robert Trump is the quietest of the Trump brothers. I'm curious, what else can you tell us about Robert Trump?
Yes, Anna, thank you. Robert Trump was born in 1948 and was the youngest of the 5 Trump siblings. Robert worked on Wall Street before joining the family real estate business. He was known as being quieter, as you have said, than his more famous brothers. President Donald Trump describes his brother as soft-spoken and easygoing. I'm sure it's a difficult time for the president right now. And again, I would like to offer my condolences. Anna.
Yes, Imelin. Lots of going on for him. Well, enjoy your 68 degrees or 22 Celsius degrees weather out there. That's unusual for, well, I know I've only visited Maryland one summer and it was really hot and humid. So is this unusual for this time of year?
A bit, because it has been raining for the past 2 days too, and the breeze just tonight, it was so cool. We were just outside. Luckily, it wasn't raining. And me and the boys were just outside the balcony and inhaling the nice breeze. I know, I'm not trying to tease you, but
That's okay. It goes around. So think about just keep in mind that if you're ever going to visit Las Vegas in the future, when it's safe to do so, just don't come in the summer. Okay.
I won't. Thank you for the heads up.
Thank you, Imelin, for your report, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thank you, Anna. Stay safe.
You too. Early voting dates have been approved by the Maryland Board of Elections for the 2020 general election. In Gaithersburg, Eagle News correspondent Naya Dames has the details. Naya?
Thank you, Anna. Not too far from D.C., here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, we're also having a cool evening as well. 65 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius. In other news, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced earlier this month a strategy to hold a normal election in November to boost voter access during the pandemic. Mixed reactions surrounded the governor's pronouncement. Many veterans have opted out due to their age and health, putting them at high risk of contracting the coronavirus, causing a shortage of election judges. About 1/3 of Maryland's 27,000 judge jobs are vacant. Maryland Association of Election Officials President David Garay said, "Without election judges, it will be impossible. Recruiting election judges is the most difficult task by the boards in normal circumstances." To help with the public's concerns, Hogan announced that the state will provide all necessary PPE to operate polls. To execute this plan will be very costly. Parts of the cost will be to provide the necessary equipment, mailing, and return postages. Plexiglass shields to separate 6,000 election judges will cost an estimate of $1 million for one Maryland county alone. It will cost Maryland an extra $20 million to finance this plan. There were many failures with the Maryland primary election that occurred back in June. Ballots were not sent out by mail as planned. Many reported their ballots being sent out late or not having received one at all. Some even received multiple ballots. There were also complications regarding the language of the ballots that were sent. Voters did not receive ballots in the language that they had requested. The process of in-person voting was also flawed. The limited amount of in-person voting centers created hours-long waits due to the social distancing measures that were imposed. Since June, the board staff have been working to review and identify problems and take action to address them to become better prepared for the November election. The board had a split vote in early July to use a limited number of in-person voting centers and mail absentee ballot applications to every registered voter. At least 77% of American voters across the nation can cast ballots by mail. If you opt to vote by mail, your ballot will not be automatically given to you if you do not request for one. There will be no requirement to give a reason as to why you cannot vote in person. Applications for mail-in ballots will start to be mailed out to registered voters in the coming weeks. The deadline to request is October 20th. All voters should strive to mail in early to take into consideration the U.S. Postal Service's warning of ballots not arriving in time for counting. Ballots can also be returned in person to your local Board of Elections by 8 p.m. on the day of the election, an early voting site, or polling place to skip the mailing process altogether. As for those who wish to vote in person, the Maryland Board of Elections approved early in-person voting 8 days prior to Election Day, starting from October 26th until November 2nd. About 80 voting sites will be open across the state, including additional centers and ballot drop-off boxes available on Election Day. More information can be found on the Maryland Board of Elections website. In the meantime, keep your eyes open for more updates to come concerning the November 2020 presidential election as the day nears. Here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, Naya Dames, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you for your report, Naya. Nice and cool there too, where you are, huh?
Yes.
So it sounds like, you know, everything is trying to be done to take care of the upcoming election. But what particular problem do you foresee in this combination of in-person and mail absentee voting there in Maryland?
That's a very good question, Anna. I myself am not a voting age yet, but as what happened in the primary elections in June, I see the same problem happening in ballots being sent out late or not being sent out at all. To add to that, voters receiving their ballots late may, not saying they will, but may try to go to their local voting centers to get their votes in, or just let it go and not get themselves counted. Instructions as to how the absentee voting process in Maryland will work should be made as clear as possible to all voters here in order to avoid confusion and have a fair election as a result.
Well, thank you, Naya, for that report. Take care and enjoy your cool weather.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
The COVID-19 Response Task Force for Health Disparity announces its recommendations to help marginalized communities in Pennsylvania. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan joins us tonight. Myla?
Thanks, Anna. Back in April, Governor Tom Wolf and Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman announced the creation of a COVID-19 response task force for health disparity that will help communicate issues with how the pandemic is affecting the state's minority and vulnerable populations. The Lieutenant Governor led the team that works to identify short and long-term consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic in vulnerable communities. The group reached out to leaders in these communities to collect feedback, ideas, and general comments on the issue. Here's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman to give us a highlight of the report his team put together to alleviate disparities in minority communities here in Pennsylvania. Take a look.
But I will drill down a bit more on a couple of the very top priorities that the task force has put forth. As we head into this new school year, we need to ensure that all students start with an equal learning opportunity by standardized remote learning and access to technology. We need to work together to bring equitable internet access to all Pennsylvanians. Our broadband infrastructure is in dire need of reform, from the rural counties to cities as large as Philadelphia, not all children have access to the materials being uploaded by instructors, and some may not have been properly trained on how to use it. This also includes ensuring information and resources that are accessible to people with disabilities, both parents and students. And finally, we should ensure that we are acknowledging the language barriers that exist in some Pennsylvania families to provide the education tools and resources, such as ESL courses for both parents and other adults. In regard to the housing crisis, we need to assure that all Pennsylvanians will have housing security for months, if not years to come. And I want to thank the governor for taking action and extending the moratorium on evictions. But we all realize that there will be a day of reckoning. It will take families months, if not years, to recover from the economic downturn of COVID-19. The Commonwealth should seal evictions for Pennsylvanians who applied for unemployment during the pandemic under the current system, and eviction filing can follow a family around for their whole lives, creating hardships and uncertainty. The Commonwealth has and should continue to step in and make sure housing security is a top priority during the COVID crisis. And lastly, I would like to highlight one criminal justice issue that has a significant part in the health disparities within our community. Our task force recommended implementation of a driver's license amnesty program to correct an oversight that has left many marginalized Pennsylvanians with decreased mobility. Many marginalized Pennsylvanians have become lost in the vicious cycle of trying to restore their driver's license.
Hospitals and other providers are submitting race data related to COVID-19 since April to the Department of Health. Gathering the information helps in giving a complete picture of how the virus is affecting Black or African American, Hispanic, and other vulnerable communities. Here's Governor of Pennsylvania Tom Wolf on how the data helps the government. Take a look.
The death rate is higher among in the Black community than it is among the community as a whole. You're shaking your head. No, that's true. That's actually true. And before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the unemployment rate was higher. Schools are more racially segregated now than they've been, they even were before Brown v. Board of Education. We have a lot of work to do. And I think the pandemic, in terms of the health disparities, brought out just one more way life is not, we're not playing on a level playing field. And you can go into all the different reasons for that. But from stress to uncertainties, economic uncertainties, to families, to the criminal justice system, we have a lot of work to do. And so I think, as the Lieutenant Governor's task force showed, when you start to delve into the disparities that exist across the Commonwealth in terms of ethnic groups, in terms of socio-political status, socioeconomic status, sorry, in terms of who's affected by this, you come up very quickly with a whole set of things that goes beyond just the health issue. That's a canary in the mine. Yes.
Hopefully, Anna, the recommendations that the task force put together is one step in many toward fair, equitable, and accessible treatment of all Pennsylvanians. So similar to Maryland and DC's weather, it's also a little bit cooler here in Swarthmore. It's unusual, actually. This is unusual weather. It's usually in the 80s or 90s at this during this time of the year, but right now it's also 69 degrees or 20 degrees Celsius here in Pennsylvania. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla. Sounds like it's that side of the country is having good weather, cooler weather.
Yes.
Thank you for your report. Now, you mentioned that Lieutenant Governor Fetterman highlighted housing, education, and criminal justice on his recommendations. It certainly is very overwhelming, to have all these issues happening all at the same time. Are there any other issues covered by that report?
Yeah, yes, Anna. There were actually 6 items in the report covered by the recommendations. Like you mentioned, there's education, there's housing, and criminal justice. There's also food insecurity. increasing the income threshold for food assistance. This will ensure that more people will be eligible. Health disparity is also included, and also economic opportunities, helping Black and Brown owned businesses with expedited assistance through special programs that will reduce the number of these businesses that are forced to, especially at this with this pandemic, they are forced to close permanently because of the virus. Anna?
Yes, it's been unfortunate, but that's good that there's that specific task force, and like you said, hopefully that will help. So, well, thank you for your report, Myla. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Anna.
When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in New Jersey, Texas, and California. This is Eagle News America.
Hello there, I'm Alfred, and I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, batch of 2008 in New Era University. I'm currently working as an operations analyst in Autodesk.
Hi, I'm Earl Escanio, and I graduated with Bachelor of Science major in Computer Science in 2010. I am a consultant at Trinity Consulting, LLC.
Hi, I'm Ivy Macapagal, Bachelor's of Computer Science graduate, year 2010. I am currently working as a cybersecurity analyst in one of the largest telco here in New Zealand, Coast Park NZ.
I'm Frank David Riego, a BS Computer Science graduate here in 2015. As a legal analyst, I am tasked to read US cases, specifically civil torts cases.
I am Melanie Rico Hermosity, a Bachelor of Science and Computer Science graduate, year 2006.
I'm currently a software quality assurance engineer at FBI Systems here in Maryland, United States.
Hi, I'm Renzo Cruz. I'm a graduate of BS Computer Science, year 2012. I'm currently working abroad, and I'm working as a senior cybersecurity consultant who specializes in digital forensics and incident response. And I am part of a national security in one of the countries here in the Middle East.
I am inviting everyone to study at New Era University to legit, to grit.
Be brilliant in the new era.
Study now at New Era University.
Excellence,
Discipline,
Service to humanity.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. If you are 21 to 59 years old and have what it takes to be the next Tagisan ng Galing Grand Winner as a solo performer, duet, trio, band, or group act, submit your audition entries now. Just follow these guidelines. To submit audition entries for the singing category, contact Nikki at 0977-651-9504. This is your chance to be Tagisan ng Galing's grand winner and win 2 million pesos. For more details and updates, visit and like the Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. What are you waiting for? Join now!
The Hidalgo County COVID condolence program assists families with coronavirus-related funeral expenses. In Edinburgh, Diane Passion has the details.
Thank you, Anna, and howdy from the Lone Star States. First, let's look at the numbers here in Hidalgo County. The total confirmed cases has reached 21,806, with nearly 16,000 recovered or released from the hospital. A little over 5,000 cases still active. The death tolls have reached 931, and the number of hospitalizations have decreased from 1,080 on July 22nd to 530 as of August 14. For those who have lost loved ones and need assistance, Hidalgo County has allocated more than $2 million to an aid program to assist families with corona-related funeral expenses. The Hidalgo County COVID Condolence Program, funded by the CARES Act, can help eligible persons with up to $2,000 in funeral expenses for those who have lost loved one due to COVID-19. Applicants must meet the following criteria in order to qualify for help. They must be a resident of Hidalgo County. Cause of death must be COVID-19 related, must be affected by COVID-19 due to loss of income. Income must be below 300% federal poverty income limits. Household composition, and must be signed-up quote or contract from the funeral home. Hidalgo County Judge Richard Cortez said in a news release, "We understand the heartbreak and hardships our residents are facing as they deal with the untimely death of their loved one, and that this program will help alleviate some of the financial burden they are facing." More information available is at www.hidalgocares.org. Meanwhile, as the new school year begins, the City of McAllen information technology crews have begun installing 5 Wi-Fi equipment in 16 neighborhoods to provide free internet access to students, as virtual and distance learning will be the norm for most students. In order to create broad range of coverage, equipment will be mounted on existing light poles in neighborhoods so students can access the internet with ease during the school day. In the weeks following the aftermath of Hurricane Hannah that struck the Rio Grande Valley on July 25th and 26th, the City of McAllen posted a message of thanks on social media for the support provided the McAllen Public Works for their ongoing efforts. After the area was hit by over 15 inches of rainfall, McAllen Public Works was able to pump 448 million gallons of water, collect 3,792 tons of debris, and distribute 27,972 sandbags. Meanwhile, hope you are staying safe and cool there in Las Vegas, Anna. In Edinburgh, Texas, I'm Diane Passion, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Diane, for your report. Mayor Eric Garcetti unveils new reserved bus lanes and protected bike lanes in downtown LA. In Panorama City, Anre Rayutatar has the details. Anre?
Thank you, Anna. But quick weather report. It's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius here in Panorama City. Now, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti unveils new reserved bus lanes and protected bike lanes in downtown Los Angeles on 5th and 6th Streets as part of the city's improvements project. During this grand opening, Mayor Garcetti stated every resident shares one dream: to get out of traffic, to get home more quickly to the people we love and the jobs that we have, describing the everyday life of the Angelino. He further said, "It's a complicated jigsaw puzzle, this place we call Los Angeles, but getting us to have a better transit is the key piece to a better quality of life." The project has 2 phases, with the first phase being recently completed at the end of last month, and the second phase expected to be completed in April 2021. This was a collaboration among the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, or LADOT for short, Bureau of Street Services, also known as Streets LA, and Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or LA Metro. The goal is to increase mobility so Los Angeles residents are able to smoothly and safely travel throughout the area. Completion of this project included the repavement and repainting of lines on 5th and 6th Streets, as well as separate bus-only lanes and the construction of barriers to protect the public using the bike lanes. The affected area included 5th and 6th Streets between Flower Street and Central Avenue, with bus lanes running the entire length, while the protected bike lanes span from Spring Street to Central Avenue. The completion of this project and opening of these exclusive bus-only lanes and protected bike lanes will improve the flow of traffic in these already congested streets. The bus lanes are meant to increase ridership because more bus schedules can be added and buses will arrive on schedule due to no competition with other vehicles on the road. The bike lanes with its new protected barriers are meant to boost the confidence of existing and potentially new cyclists. The intention of these protected bike paths is to increase the number of people using bikes as a means of transportation. Currently, the approximately 80 buses per hour are transporting passengers on 6th Street, and about 70 buses per hour are in service on 5th Street, according to LA Metro. This project will definitely assist passengers to get to their destinations more easily and safely. In Panorama City, California, Honore Rio Tutar, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Andre, for your report. That's a great benefit for the city. Like you said, it'll encourage more people to ride their bikes, ride the bus. But speaking of bike lanes, are there any other hidden benefits to adding those protective barriers?
Speaking of bike lanes, there are other hidden protection barriers. And these protected bike lanes can also be advantageous to pedestrians. They provide a buffer between cars and roads on people walking on the street.
Yes, I'm sure that will reduce the amount of accidents that happens related to pedestrians and those riding their bikes. Well, your weather is a little bit closer to what we have here in Las Vegas. I guess it's looking like it's much hotter on the West Coast. Thank you for your report, Andre. You stay cool out there.
You too. Thank you, Anna.
We'll return shortly. This is Eagle News, America.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. Kung ikaw ay 21 to 59 years old at may angking galing sa pagkanta, mapasolo, duet, trio o banda man, magpadala na ng audition entry. Narito ang mga guidelines. Para makapagpasa ng entry sa singing category, contact Nikki sa 0977-651-9504. Ito na ang pagkakataon mo para maging tagisan ng galing grand winner at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, i-like ang Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. Kaya sali na!
Every registered voter in New Jersey will receive vote-by-mail ballot in the mail to protect public health. In Sicklerville, Mayan Manzana-Gorzon has the details. Mayan?
Thank you, Anna. Amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Phil Murphy signed an executive order to create a modified vote-by-mail or VBM election for the November 3rd general election. The order suspends the sending of sample ballots and requires that each county's elections officials send VBM ballots with prepaid postage to all active registered voters for the general election. Additionally, every voter will have the option either return their ballot through a secure drop box or turn in their ballot at a polling location on election day. The administration is working with the Department of State to implement a new online voter registration system where New Jersey residents will have the opportunity to register to vote. The online system will launch on September 4, 2020. Governor Murphy said that COVID-19 continues to threaten public health, and with the announcement, the state officials are ensuring that New Jersey voters do not have to make a decision between exercising the right to vote and protecting their well-being. Secretary of State Tahisha Weiss said, quote, "Every voter deserves to participate in free, fair, and safe elections." In order to address the influx of BBM ballots, the executive order will extend the deadline to allow ballots being returned through the United States Postal Service or USPS with a postmark on or before November 3rd to be counted as a valid ballot by the county clerk if received by 8 p.m. on November 10th. Ballots without a postmark that are received by the county boards of elections within 48 hours of the closing of polls on November 3rd shall be considered valid. Today's executive order will also require a minimum of at least one polling place in each municipality and a minimum of 50% of polling places in each county to provide New Jersey voters with access to in-person voting opportunities, including accommodations for voters with disabilities. All public schools will close for in-person instruction on November 3rd to allow counties to use their buildings as polling locations if necessary. Polling locations will be required to follow public health standards, including ensuring 6 feet of distance, requiring poll workers to wear face coverings and gloves, frequent sanitization of high-touch areas, and providing sanitization materials to all individuals at the polling place. Meanwhile, here is today's statistical report of New Jersey's COVID-19 cases. According to the Department of Health of New Jersey, there are 329 new positive cases reported today, bringing a statewide total of 187,455 New Jerseyans tested positive. Sadly, we have 4 new deaths, pushing the total to 14,073 fatalities. New Jersey remains on stage 2 of its road to recovery. And Anna, for some weather update, it's now 10:45 in the evening here in Sicklerville, and it's cloudy. Our current temperature is 66 degrees Fahrenheit or 19 degrees Celsius. The high today was forecast as 71 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius. In Sicklerville, New Jersey, May and Manzano Garzon, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Mayan. So it's cooler there as well. Yeah, we got it. That side of the country is cooler. So, but I was wondering, in that executive order, was there an option mentioned about those who prefer to do in-person voting?
Yes, Anna, part of the order actually says that any voter who appears at a polling place on the day of the election and does not return a voted mail-in ballot shall vote via provisional ballot, except that accommodations will be made for voters with disabilities. So I believe, Anna, that this option is more for the disabilities. So it's not actually for anyone who just prefer to do an in-person voting. Anna?
Well, that's good that there'll be accommodations for, for those who really need it. Well, thank you, Mayan, for that report. Sure, we'll hear more about it. Take care. Heat wave continues in Los Angeles County. In Van Nuys, Trish Nicole Paras has the story.
Thank you, Anna. Here in Van Nuys, even though it's already the evening, it's a hot and sunny 89 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat wave continues in Los Angeles County until next week, with triple-digit heat warnings for many areas. Los Angeles is coming off from an excessively hot weekend, but this heat wave is not over yet. The initial heat wave alert was issued before this weekend, forecasting temperatures ranging from 95 to 108 degrees Fahrenheit, lasting until Monday, with Saturday being expected to be the hottest day. As of Saturday afternoon, the National Weather Service recorded daily high temperatures for various areas of Los Angeles. Woodland Hills is one of those areas, setting a record high temperature of 110 degrees Fahrenheit, beating the city's record high of 108 degrees in 1997. The National Weather Service continues the excessive heat warning alert until next week, with the hottest temperatures expected to occur on Tuesday. The Los Angeles Fire Department, or LAFD for short, gave guidelines and actions to take for staying safe and healthy in this extremely hot weather. The LAFD is advising everyone to stay indoors as much as possible and in air-conditioned locations, including all pets. If no access to air conditioning at home, one can go to cooling centers at local libraries and community centers located throughout the country. These county-sponsored cooling centers are free of charge to the public, and they are all indoor, air-conditioned places. If one must go outside, stay in the shade or use hats or umbrellas to keep cool. Avoid going out during hours when the temperature is the hottest due to the burning rays of the sun, usually between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Stay hydrated by bringing reusable bottles with water, drinking between 2 to 4 glasses of water every hour in these extreme heat conditions. If doing some form of exercise or work outside, drinking low-sugar fruit juices or sports drinks is advised to replenish the body with nutrients lost due to sweating. Wear clothing that are light-colored and lightweight. Never leave children or pets alone in cars, not even for a few minutes during these excessively hot temperatures. Strenuous activities such as yard work, running, biking, or working out should be done in the early morning or late evening hours. This current excessive heat wave can cause heat-related illnesses like heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So, residents should monitor themselves and their families for any symptoms they may be experiencing due to this extreme heat. On a side note, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, or LADWP for short, tweeted that their crews are working round the clock to bring back power to those who are experiencing outages. Power grids are being overloaded. The LADWP is encouraging customers to set their air conditioner to 78 degrees Fahrenheit and no lower, turn off unnecessary lights, and do laundry after 9 p.m. And now for the current COVID-19 update. According to the Los Angeles Public Health Department, the number of newly reported cases in the county today is 1,192 and 9 new deaths. The total number of confirmed cases is now 221,950, with 5,254 deaths and 1,357 current hospitalizations. Meanwhile, the state of California has a total of 620,271 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 11,231 deaths, as recorded by the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine Coronavirus Resource Center. In Van Nuys, California, Trish Nicole Paras, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Trish Nicole, for that report. So although it's not as hot over there as here in Las Vegas, I'm sure with the humidity, it's just as uncomfortable, right? So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned the heat stroke. What are some of the symptoms that people should look out for?
Well, Anna, both heat stroke and heat exhaustion are conditions that must be taken seriously. Signs of heat exhaustion can include feelings of faintness or dizziness, nausea or vomiting, muscle cramps, excessive sweating, pale or clammy skin, and either a rapid or weak pulse. Victims of heat exhaustion should get cooled down as quickly as possible and drink plenty of water. Symptoms of the more severe heat stroke can manifest as throbbing headaches, elevated body temperature of above 103 degrees Fahrenheit, red, hot, dry skin, nausea or vomiting, rapid or strong pulse, and potentially loss of consciousness. Persons suffering from heat stroke should be cooled down immediately, and emergency services should be called right away. One important note about heat-related illnesses is that the onset of signs can occur very quickly. That means a person can feel perfectly normal one moment and then in the next suddenly find themselves ready to pass out. So during the hot weather, people should drink lots of fluids, stay cool, and take things easy as much as possible.
Well, Trish Nicole, make sure you drink your water as you recommended, 2 to 4 glasses per hour, especially if you're going to be outside. Thank you for your report, and we look forward to having you join us again next time. And thank you, Eagle News team, for joining us tonight. And join me as we continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. We sincerely appreciate all of you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Cui, and we live in interesting times.